Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show where we talk about all things gaming. My name is Killjoy, and today I want to give you my thoughts on Fire Emblem Engage, the latest game in the Fire Emblem series. Now, I have not finished this game, but I would say about halfway through. I'm not entirely sure how many chapters they are. I'm on chapter 18, I think, but to be honest, I probably could have completed the game by now, but I've spent a lot of time doing skirmishes on the maps and things like that. But yeah, I want to just... Overall, I really like this game. I forget sometimes just how much I enjoy Fire Emblem, and I really like Three Houses. If you want my experience of the games, I've played Sacred Stones, Awakening, a bit of Shadow Dragon when they got put on the DS, Fates, all of those ones. Three Houses, and now Engage. So I've played a good chunk of them. I've also played Radiant Dawn. Is that the Wii one? I think Radiant Dawn was the Wii one. I also played that. So I do like Fire Emblem. I do like strategy RPGs. I think this is a really, really good series. It's challenging. And I wasn't like... Engage is weird. It kind of crept up on me, because when I first saw it, I went, oh yeah, that's cool. And now I've played it, I'm like, you know what, I really enjoy this game, and I really enjoyed Three Houses, so I think Fire Emblem's like up there for me. It just doesn't always necessarily get me excited until it comes out, until I can play it. But the game, let's talk about the game, right? Like, because this is, you know, what have they done in this game to differentiate it from other Fire Emblem games? Well, they've brought back the weapon triangle that was missing from Three Houses, but they brought that back. So how that works is rock, paper, scissors. Swords are good against axes, axes are good against lances, lances are good against swords. However, there are other elements to it, so that's your primary element. Then you also have bare fist fighting, daggers, magic, and bows. Now, from what I can tell, if you're a bare fist fighter in this game, you have advantage against, I think, people with daggers, bows, and staves, essentially, like magic tomes. But you also have bows are good against flying, magic's good against armored. The special one is thieves with the knives. Basically, knives can be thrown or they can be used in close combat, and they seem to tend to poison someone. And I think when someone's poisoned, they take more damage. I think that's basically how that works. So there's a lot to think about, but that's not necessarily new because some of these elements have been here before. What they decided to do was add in, I think, for the first time, something called break. And the way break works is that if you are, let's say you have, you've got an axe person and somebody's got a lance, and your stats are high enough or above theirs, you can break their stance. And what that basically allows you to do is you'll connect with your attack, they drop their weapon, and for the rest of that character's turn, you can attack them and they cannot retaliate. I think there are exceptions to that, but that's primarily how that function works. It opens up a new layer of strategy because the enemy can also do the same thing to you, and it has happened. And I had times where I've gone, oh no, my character's going to probably die. So there is that. That's like one of the big gameplay changes, obviously the weapon triangle, the break mechanics. Most of the other mechanics in here seem... I get confused between what's actually new and what's not, that's the problem. But like the actual core gameplay and strategy elements to it are very, very solid. That's what you'd expect. The AI can be quite aggressive in a lot of these, so you do kind of have to be prepared that you can't just leave units willy-nilly wherever you want on the map. But overall, like, there's probably a bunch of minor things that I'm forgetting. There's sort of elements to different characters as well. Like if one of my characters has the ability to guard an opponent, so they'll take like 4 damage instead of saying the 20 that your character that's defending might. Like there's things like that, and they're obviously a big element. That combined without the emblems being incorporated is probably enough to keep people interested, because the combat is deep. You do have to take a mixture of classes if you want to be able to deal with just about anything. You want maybe a couple of tome users, you want like a one bow user, you probably want a couple of swordsmen, a couple of axemen, a couple of lances. So having a variety of characters really makes a big difference. The other big mechanic is the emblems that they've added in, and the emblems do add some flavor to the game. Essentially, you have an emblem on a character. When you choose to engage for 3 turns, you will gain buffs in stats, you will gain certain abilities. probably some of my favorites are like if you've got Marth. Marth has a very, very powerful ability that allows you to use that one strong attack against a single target. If you've got Ike lets you do Great Ether, so for that turn he'll just sit there and tank the damage. Next turn he slams the ground and does damage to everything that's around him. They all have these big special abilities. They also have their own unique weapons, which will allow your character, let's say they're a swordsman but they can't normally use a bow, now maybe they can use a bow, now maybe they can use an axe. So they're very, very, very powerful tools, and they can really swing certain fights. I enjoy what they've done with those. I haven't really bumped into any of them that I consider useless yet, and they have also released more in the DLC, so there are opportunities for you to have a bunch of very, very powerful emblems that you wouldn't normally have. I haven't actually bothered because I've thought about it. If you've got those emblems before a certain part of the game, it's going to break the game a little bit, but maybe that's something I'll look into after I finish the game, is getting those and seeing what they're like. So all in all, the core gameplay of Fire Emblem is very, very strong here. The game just plays out how you'd expect it, because Fire Emblem hasn't really changed over the years. It's what they add on to that, and they've added the emblems and they've added the break mechanic, and I think that's enough for this game to make the combat feel fresh and new, where you're not like, oh, I just got to watch out for this one thing. No, you do have to think about it. And you do also chain attack significantly more in this if you are next to an ally that has a particular skill. They can jump in and do an extra damage, and you can kind of set that up so every time you attack, you might have 3 of your characters jump in with you and deal, you know, up to 10 plus damage where they're just all hitting things. So it's there is a lot to think about. This game has a lot of minute details as well. I don't want to go into everything in this video because I don't think I'll cover everything, but just cover the main beats. After the gameplay, we have characters and emblems and the story and stuff like that. The actual characters I do enjoy. I like a lot of the designs. I think my favourite character so far is Boucheron, who's like this, he's just this naturally muscly dude. And everyone's like, how did you get so muscly? And he's his whole thing is like that, but he also loves like books and he cries a lot and he gets lost a lot. Like he's just a fun character. He's one of my favourites because I've made him a berserker, which means he absolutely hits like a truck, and has an insane amount of health, but also gets hit a lot. The main character is he's alright. Like, he's not my favourite like main characters, like Aaliyah. He does enough job. I like a lot of the other characters in the game that aren't the main characters, to be honest. A lot of the ones that you meet, some of them are absolutely ridiculous. This game is very over the top. I think if you know that going in, you'll appreciate it more. One of my favourite characters you meet is Yunaka, who is this dagger-wielding thief. And she's clearly got more going on than meets the eye. And as you build up bonds with people, you find out about her past. And yeah, there's a ton of really cool characters. They do sometimes talk about random stuff. One of them, I can't remember what her name is, likes to talk about tea. And every side conversation I've had, I've just been talking about tea. You know, I'm not going to pretend this is like the most well-written game ever, because it's not. It's very cheesy. It's very silly for what it is. But there are really nice moments in there. And I can appreciate that. I'm not a big fan of like, you know, like these crazy anime stories or like that just kind of stuff anyway. So for me, this was like completely acceptable, but I'm not going to pretend that this game's got like the best writing, because it hasn't. I think Three Houses has very good writing. This is just a very silly writing. Like there's a girl called Chloe, or Chloe as they keep calling her, who's got a thing about what they call folk food, which is just weird food. And every time she's like talking to people, she's like, oh, let's go and eat some crazy food and all this sort of stuff. Just some odd choices and odd personality traits, but all in all, like most of the cast that I've met so far, I've enjoyed. There isn't anyone that I detest or anything. Same with the emblems. The emblems obviously feel a little bit lifeless, but they're just kind of there. Like, I'm not even sure how they end up in this world yet. Like, they're just like, oh, they just come from another world and they're in these rings and whatever. And it's cool seeing them. I mean, it's definitely a fan service moment. It's like to celebrate Fire Emblem in its entirety. But I like it. I haven't got no problem with that. I like seeing Marth and Roy and Ike and Micaiah and all these other characters that from these other games. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, you know, getting to see them and seeing what abilities they give them. And I enjoy it. I like Ike quite a lot, because he's just like, hey, I just fight. I fight. People pay me. I fight. And like the story you do with him is really interesting. Like, I don't know, I just really enjoy what they've done with them, even if they're not as fleshed out as they could be. Story-wise, the story's not amazing. Like, I don't hate it, but it's also like, it's just, hey, you know, like most Fire Emblems, you're fighting a dragon or something, or you are a dragon, or there's a dragon involved somehow. Like I mentioned, the dialogue can be a little bit iffy at times, especially in the side quests, but like the main story is not awful. All in all, I've enjoyed what's been on display, from seeing the story from different perspectives from these different countries, each country being very different from the last one, and even the people that live in the country that you're warring with and all that. Like, it's not like a bog standard story, but it does feel a little bit bog standard for a Fire Emblem game, because they're all a bit similar, but not anything that's like awful. It's just, you just kind of know what you're getting, and I think that's okay. Like, if you enjoy that sort of thing, which I don't have a problem with, then it's all good. There are other minor parts about this game, like the Somniel is like a smaller version of the monastery from Three Houses. They kind of went, look, let's not have people run around as crazy. Let's put all these activities in a small area, and you can go back and forth there between missions to help level up your support conversations, get some free training in to level up your characters, make meals that give you buffs on the next mission. Everything from Three Houses is just in this one place. The game does look better than Three Houses as well, a lot more pop to it, the textures look better. It's a very ridiculous looking game, to be honest, but you know, I enjoy that, and I also enjoy the environments you fight in on the map and stuff like that. You get to, at the end of every mission, if you choose to, run around that battle area, talk to people, collect resources. That gets old pretty quickly, but the good thing is you don't have to talk to everyone for the bond fragments, so you can just have you can literally leave, but you can also use that time to adopt animals as well, and they'll give you stuff for like, everything works together very nicely. This is a really solid package. Like, I don't think this is like would be like my game of the year, but it's up there in terms of like, hey, this is a really solid game. This game should be seen as a big thing, and like, Nintendo has a big year this year with a lot of games coming out, and like, to start the year off with Fire Emblem being a really solid RPG, like, I don't have a lot of bad things to say. I have one thing that in this game that I think is a problem, and that's the way skirmishes work. So skirmishes, I believe, they look at the level of your main hero, and they basically work as in, okay, so if you're level 20, all the skirmishes are going to be level 20, which is a problem when you want to train your lower ranked classes, and you can't. And then on top of that, some of the skirmishes, depending on where you start, all of the enemies just bum rush you. They don't wait for you to get close enough or anything like that. They just come straight at you. So I definitely think skirmishes are really unbalanced, because the more you level up your main character, or maybe it goes off the highest character's level, I don't know, the harder they get, which means you're only really training the units that you're going to be using anyway. So now I'm so over leveled with my main class of units that when I go back and do story missions, they're actually easier to train the lower level people on than the skirmish missions are. So I'm hoping like that the multiplayer and stuff, I haven't really looked into it too much, but I know that you can train in the tower and stuff in the Somniel, and I'm hoping that that's an easier way to level people up, because currently with most of my skirmishes being advanced level 10, it's like, well, I can't really level up certain people without them getting absolutely murdered. So I do think that's a little bit off. But that's really my only gripe with the game. I think the rest of the time is actually pretty good. I've enjoyed what I've been playing of it. I hope to get through it, you know, fairly soon, and then, you know, I will look at the other emblems when all the packs are out and think about getting them. Like, this is a nice linear game. I'm enjoying it for what it is. It's a solid Fire Emblem game. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it as well. It's colourful. It's got silly characters. So all in all, I think it's a solid package. No real issues with frame rate that I've noticed. For the most part, the gameplay is smooth. I think it's 30 frames. But yeah, just a really, really good, solid Fire Emblem game, and it's something they should be proud of. I look forward to seeing if they add more of the classic characters in later down the line. Anyway, that'll do it for me then for this video. Thank you very much for watching. As always, if you like the video, hit like. If you want to see more content like this, then hit subscribe. Links for Facebook and Twitter will be down below in the description as always. And until next video, I will see you then.